India Legal makes the difference because we bring you only the news that counts.
India Legal, stories that count.
Hello and welcome to another special readout from India Legal magazine. Well, this is actually the second part of a three-part readout on some of the most important matters concerning the judiciary and the Indian jurisprudential system. The earlier readout, as you may remember, is a related one that had to do with the ascension of Justice Chandrachud as Justice D. Chandrachud as the 50th Chief Justice of India last month, and the problems that he will be facing and the constitutional issues he will be faced with and challenged by. And one of the most important issues that he will face and will continue to face is the issue of human rights. You know, the human rights issue is something that we took up as a special edition in India Legal. We published this as a special edition, as we hope will become a collector's item, because it contains the views of some of India's leading judicial minds and thinkers on this very, very important issue of human rights. And this is a sequel to the earlier video cast that we did on Justice Chandrachud and the challenges that he faces. Now, as you know, we are the nation's first political legal independent weekly, focusing on controversial issues of national and international importance. The video readouts we present to you regularly are the editorial team's choice of the most significant stories we believe should receive close scrutiny and wide circulation. You can watch them along with the visuals or listen to them as you would a podcast. Now, in this latest readout, we focus on an ideal fundamental to the human race. As I said earlier, human rights, an ideal fundamental to the very existence, not of India, just India, but the human race as a civilized entity. Now, December 10th, as many of you may recall, was Human Rights Day, International Human Rights Day. It should be considered, along with all major religious landmarks events such as Diwali, Christmas, Eid, Gurpurab, Hanukkah, it should be considered a day of reflection and celebration of the power of the human spirit. In its own way, this date is a call to all humankind that they are endowed by their Creator with the right to enjoy a life of joy and freedom from oppression. It marks the day that the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. These inalienable rights, entitled universally, without discrimination, include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of expression and opinion, the right to work and education, and many more, including the rights of women, most importantly now, which is added later on. These principles are a call to humankind to abandon the dark ages and gladiatorial and tyrannical savagery of absolutism, to awaken into a universe of freedom, of compassion, of justice. Alas, this is only an ideal. The reality is that our much vaunted globalism is still plagued by war, terror, torture, and tyranny, injustice, iniquity, and inequality. That, however, should not deter us, if only for one day in a year, to remember the day in that fateful day in 1948, when women and men of wisdom blew the human rights bugle in a world organization and reminded us that life need not always be nasty, brutish, and short. In this special issue, again, India Legal magazine, devoted to promoting concepts of universal access to justice, commemorates the importance of Human Rights Day by inviting some of the nation's leading luminaries, many of them former Chief Justices and chairpersons of India's National Human Rights Commission (NHRC), to ruminate on this subject. I reproduce below excerpts from the thoughts they have conveyed to our magazine in interviews with our roving editor Sanjay Raman Sinha. Now here's former Chief Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya, to whom we asked the question. Figures from National Human Rights Commission (NHRC) say that violations have increased by around 37% between 2020 and 21 and 2021 and 2022. As former chairman of NHRC, how do you see the current state of human rights in India? The answer from the revered Chief Justice is this, and I quote him: "You've asked me about the state of human rights in India. I recall an incident when an ambushed journalist asked me, 'What's the state of human rights in India?' Asked me the same question. Explain it in one word. And I said, 'Good.' And she queried, 'If I asked you to explain it in 2 words?' I said, 'Not good.'" That sums up the dilemma of the discourses. The higher level of reporting to the National Human Rights Commission is perhaps an account of the greater trust and confidence NHRC has earned over time. Second, there might be greater awareness about human rights discourse amongst people. Third, there are increases in the violation of human rights. However, the real human rights discourse is itself at different levels. In fact, people understanding it only in a narrow sense, in a broader sense, it's a philosophy and a way of civilized life. It's not me, I'm still quoting Justice Venkatachalaya. Now we went on to Justice Arun Mishra, chairman of the NHRC. Our question: what about the rights of uncounted thousands of under trials languishing in prisons without bail and awaiting trial? His answer, Justice Arun Mishra's answer: the sad reality is that despite the excellent work of our Legal Services Authority and increased public awareness of the law, we've been unable to provide competent advocates to poor prisoners. I believe the Legal Aid Services Committee should provide competent lawyers to poor prisoners. The poor means indigent prisoners, people who cannot even afford a lawyer. That's my commentary on what Justice Mishra is saying. But I'll continue now with Justice Mishra. The problem is that because these prisoners, particularly those from socio-economically disadvantaged sections or with limited resources, can rarely afford a competent advocate. They are frequently convicted even when there is insufficient evidence. The appeals are assigned to an amicus curiae or inept advocates. I have found that in the majority of cases, entrusting these matters to a qualified advocate would increase the chances of ensuring fair, efficient, and equitable justice. The situation is such that the person is acquitted and released 14 to 20 years after completing his sentence. Now we go to former Chief Justice and 5th chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, and that's Justice S. Rajendra Babu. He is known for his initiatives against police brutality and capital punishment. His verdict in Kishori versus State of Delhi, delineating mob psychology, is noteworthy. Our question: How do you react to the proposition that the NHRC, the Human Rights Commission, is a paper tiger and toothless body which needs to be empowered to make it function effectively? The judge's answer, Rajendra Babu's answer: NHRC is a body without powers to make decrees or enforce its decisions. Hence, some people call it a paper tiger. However, my view is different. Its role is not confrontational, but cooperative. If all stakeholders are involved in the process of recommendation and good governance, which needs adherence to human rights, much can be achieved. When children from Chhattisgarh were transported to Kashmir as prisoners by a contractor, I invoked the good offices of the two chief ministers, both belonging to different political parties, and they cooperated in getting their freedom. In Gujarat, after the incidents of 2002, many were dislocated from their places. While some wanted to settle down in their original place, others wanted to go to new places for safety. Without going into the causes of the incidents, I sought the cooperation of the Gujarat government, which was extended wholeheartedly. The hallmark of good governance is to respect human rights, which all governments are aware of, but they need to be reminded often. Here's my postscript. These are only randomly selected quotes from lengthy interviews contained in that special issue of India Legal. There are many more that complete this issue, devoted to a subject that can be the study of a lifetime. This is your host editor, Inderjit Badhwar. I'll see you again in another video on a related subject, actually the third part of this series in a future video. Until then, next time, goodbye for now.
India Legal, stories that count.